What's up, everybody? Welcome to S.W.A.T MMA, where we're smoking weed and talking mixed martial arts. My name is Jarrod. I'm here with Paul.
What's up?
We're coming to you from the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. This is episode number 82, and this week we're going to be talking a bit about boxing with the Crawford Brook results. We're going to also be discussing mixed martial arts with the UFC's Fight Night Las Vegas 14, plus a look ahead to their UFC 255 pay-per-view, as well as Bellator. We're going to be discussing the results of the BKFC 14, as well as wrestling, because we saw Jordan Burroughs compete this past weekend. Before we get into all these great combat sports, let's get started with our weed of the week.
Smoke weed every day.
Hope you are smoking on something good like we are. We've got two different kinds of flower and one kind of concentrate this week. Paul just passed me over some Gorilla Glue number 4, which has been kind of a steady here on the show lately.
It's
Paul.
a favorite.
Dude, we've just got a really good batch of it here. And we're going to keep smoking it while we have it. But we have added to the mix some blue cheese this week. Blue cheese is a cross. You take a blueberry male, you take a UK cheese female, and you have blue cheese. UK cheese is a skunk number 1 phenotype. So that's what kind of gives it that funky smell. You got that mixing with the blueberry, which really does smell like blueberries. Like, I always thought that was bullshit.
Yeah.
Until, like, when we finally started getting dispensaries and you knew you were getting the actual strain. And yeah, dude, blueberry smells like blueberry. And skunk is aptly named. So it's a funky smelling weed. Heavy indica. Tastes pretty good.
I feel it.
We got a joint of that rolled up over for next. And what kind of concentrate did you say that was? Some.
San Fernando Valley OG.
We were talking about that last week.
I said it was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
and then it's funny is got it right after.
Yeah, we had that Fire OG, which is a cross of the San Fernando Valley OG and a Master Kush.
Yeah.
Lots of smelly weed today.
I like it.
It's the kind I like.
It's the kind
The sticky, dank. We're hitting this new piece. I haven't seen this one in a while. If you can see it on video. I like the colors on that. It's fiery. That's a cool dab rig. Hitting that pre-show, and for during the show, we've got our trusty PAX 3.
Yup.
Which at this point, I highly recommend. Dude, that
Yeah,
thing was
me
like
too.
$300, but I have no complaints.
Ain't no complaints.
Like, the weed burns great in it. Fucking, it handles all kinds of different concentrates, and it's got a 10-year warranty, so if something goes wrong. So, that's not a sponsor of our show, folks. That's just an honest recommendation from some daily smokers. So, we're going to have to fire up this blue cheese here.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this on.
Yeah, turn that PAX on. And I hope you're puffing down, too. And let's get started, man. Let's talk about the results of, and honestly, I'm tired of saying this title, UFC Fight Night Las Vegas 14.
I know.
God.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, which we saw Rafael Dos Anjos make his return to lightweight from, 3 years he's been at welterweight now, where he started off great. He had, 3 wins in a row, and then he's just looked pretty bad ever since. While admittedly fighting top-level competition.
Absolutely, yeah. Here's the thing, is Rafael Dos Anjos he's one of the best to ever fight at lightweight, but I just feel like he's past his prime. And then he went up to welterweight because he felt like he wasn't gonna be able to. I don't know if he's not on the level of everyone at the top 5, but let's just be honest. There's definitely some differences between him and those top 5 guys. Let's just look at it this way. Going into this fight, originally he was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev. He ends up fighting Paul Felder. When the first fight odds came out, when he was originally going to fight Islam, he was the odds were plus 500.
And Islam was ranked number 10.
Yeah.
Which is lower than they gave RDA a ranking upon his return. Which, I don't know, that means whatever. It's not really important.
Islam is a series coming up
Yeah, he's a protege of Khabib's.
Yeah.
And he's serious.
He's a little bit more rounded than Khabib.
A little bit. He's got some more
obviously Khabib's dominant, but I'm saying he's not like rounded like he's better in other areas. I'm saying like he looks more like fundamentally sound, like as far as his like what he does. You know what I mean?
You know, the Khabib fanboys always get upset with us on this show because we don't worship at the altar, but we never deny that he's a great fighter, and it's not an insult to say that he's a specialist.
Yeah, he's
And
definitely
saying
a specialist.
that you know he's more rounded is
Yeah.
not saying that he's better. It's just meaning he is more rounded.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think a lot of that comes from being around that whole AKA gym in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, one thing about AKA is earlier it was wrestlers, then it turned into strikers, like striking wrestlers, and now it's like gone back to like its wrestling roots. Because like if you look at back in the day with like Shields and fucking Fitch, right?
I don't think
Yeah.
Shields is
Not
there, but John
Shields.
Fitch
Fitch
is there.
and,
Fitch,
fuck,
Shields has
I'm
always
trying
been
to-
a scrap pack.
Not
But-
Fitch. Not Shields. What the fuck's his name?
Koscheck.
No.
Koscheck was
I
there.
know Koscheck was there,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, what the fuck is his name? He commentates for Bellator. Josh Thompson. That's
Josh
who I was
Thompson,
thinking of.
yes,
Not
yeah.
Shields.
Yeah, Thompson was
I'm
AKA.
sorry.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But yeah, I feel like those guys, like, kind of in like Luke Rockhold and stuff, like, brought more of like that striking background in, and like even Kane was a much better striker than a lot of those like earlier days
Yeah,
guys.
Kane's good.
I feel like that integration of like, uh, you know, just that style mixed with already their wrestling bases, they've been able to churn out a lot of champions and a lot of top level guys. And I feel like Makhachev was just kind of that next man up.
Yeah, he's
So-
definitely a serious contender. I mean, Khabib was calling for him to get a title shot if he beat RDA. I think that's a little bit soon
That's
because,
a little much, yeah.
look, RDA's calling for a title shot now. I mean, he winds up beating Paul Felder, who replaced him on 5 days' notice, cut 22 pounds in 5 days,
Yeah.
made weight, fought very good the first round.
First couple rounds. I
and
think
then
honestly
slowly just
throughout the
got
fight,
overwhelmed.
well, not even honestly, throughout the fight he fought well. I just feel like it was a mismatch because there was no game plan on Paul Felder's side really going in. Like, sure, there's the stand it, keep him in the middle. You know what you're doing on the fly. But I'm saying before the fight there was no. All right, let's spend 2 weeks on takedown defense.
No, he said
There was-
he hadn't actually been in an MMA gym in 4 months. He'd been strictly training for a
Marathon.
triathlon or a marathon.
Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah. So, which, I mean, he looked pretty lean. Even though he cut 22 pounds, he still looked lean in there.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
he's put the road work in, so like a lot of time when you put that road work in, you're a little bit more defined like he was,
Right.
and naturally he's not carrying as much weight running freaking 15 miles a day. If you're training for a marathon, I'm sure you're running 10, 12 miles a day.
I would imagine. But he looked good overall, but it was a dominant performance by RDA, who immediately calls for a title shot based on the logic that he and Conor McGregor, out of the top tier, are the only quote-unquote real champions, whereas Gaethje, Poirier, and Ferguson were all interim champions. I don't buy that logic. I don't think he needs
I've
to
never
fight for
looked
a
at it
title
that way.
right now.
I didn't even read that.
Yeah, that's what he said. So we're the only two real champs, me and Conor, so me and Conor should fight for the belt. And I admire
Admire the sentiment,
you
but-
shoot for the fucking moon, bro. I get it. I'm not knocking it, but I'm not buying it either.
Well, considering his last loss at lightweight was also to Tony Ferguson.
Right. So I need to see more than him handily. I mean, Felder did fight well, but he got beat handily. I mean, I don't understand
Yeah.
it was a split decision, but get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that one
That's a
judge
joke.
has got to get out of here. He's done.
That,
He's-
that's
Hey, get the fuck out of here.
that makes
bro.
my head
Like,
hurt just
no.
thinking about it.
48 to 47.
Yeah. And Felder's apparently not retiring anymore. He says he's got the fire in him again.
Well, good for him.
And I did admire after the fight, Felder went out and talked a lot of shit about fighters missing weight.
Yeah,
And I admire that. I hate it
Yeah.
when fighters miss weight.
for sure.
The only time that I'm willing to cut people slack is when they take a fight on 5 days' notice and you miss by a couple pounds. I'm like, well, okay, that's slightly different than you had 3 months in a contract to fucking make weight.
Yeah.
But Felder made weight. He went out and talked some shit, and I like the guy. I don't
Yeah.
know if he can hang with the top of the division though.
Well, when you're talking about, here's the thing. Paul Felder is a good fighter to like. He's always going to be in all those big fights. I just don't know how many of them he actually wins, is what I'm saying. Like, he's never going to be out of any of those fights. Like, he could fight Gaethje, he could fight Poirier, fight Tony, Conor. He could fight all those guys. And, he's already fought Dan Hooker, and we saw what happened there. So, like, he's always going to be in those fights,
Yeah.
like physically. You know what I'm saying? He can take the punches. He has a good chin. He's
He's a
got
solid
good cardio. He's never going to be out of it physically. It's the technique wise and timing and stuff like that is where I feel like a lot of those guys edge over Felder in, all those big fights, whether it be Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Dustin, Justin Gaethje, Conor. I just don't see him having any qualities that shows me like he's going to beat any of those guys.
And I didn't see enough in this fight for me to insert
No disrespect.
Dos Anjos. No, he's a good guy. He's a good fighter. And I didn't see enough out of RDA to throw him in this mix of suddenly fighting for the title when we've got the four guys that we've been talking about here, which is Conor, Dustin, Gaethje, and Tony. I don't really know how you insert RDA suddenly into that.
I think
can you not look at his last fights and count that? I know he's in a different weight class, but how do you ignore the fact that he's coming off all these losses?
Well, here's the thing is I think it also matters that he did fight a guy who was fifth in the division. That is like
was that Felder's ranking?
Yeah.
He was fifth?
Yeah.
And this isn't RDA's fault.
Or
he
seventh,
went out and he
fifth or
won.
seventh, I believe.
But he's also, as we were just saying, a guy on short notice.
But here's the thing, though. So
I don't know.
when we all know that the rankings are bullshit and whatever they are. But in a situation with RDA where he's moving down weight, he did have, I think he had 2 wins at welterweight before he dipped back to lightweight. So, he did have some bad losses, but last time I checked, I know he beat Kevin Lee at welterweight.
Yeah, he beat Kevin Lee, who was coming up from lightweight at welterweight, which was surprising. But
so I know he was definitely coming off a win. So I think it still puts him in that like 7 to 10 ranking.
I do too.
As of Tuesday, but
let's wrap it with this. I think he should get a big fight. I think we're most likely getting Conor versus
Dustin,
Poirier.
Yeah.
And I think we should do.
I think we're getting Tony Chandler too.
Tony Chandler. And so that would leave Gaethje open for
RDA.
Dos Anjos.
I would say Gaethje or Hooker.
Or Dan Hooker. Yeah,
Hooker's not out of the mix. That fight with Poirier was a war, and he was in it too. So like he's still in it with how the kind of the paradigm is shift in the lightweight division with Khabib out. This is now a strikers division. Like don't get me wrong, like a grappler could come along again, like Makhachev or Chandler or something, and dominate with their grappling. But more or less, all these guys at the top of lightweight now are strikers.
Yes.
Conor, Tony, Justin, Felder, Dan
Let's get
Hooker.
it cracking.
And don't fucking sleep on Michael Chandler or Tony Ferguson striking either.
No, not at all. And let's wrap up the talk about this fight with this bit of information that just came out here in the past few days because it affects the situation we're talking about. Is Habib Nurmagomedov releases an Instagram post of his 47th drug test for USADA.
Yeah.
And I'm baffled because you don't take drug tests when you're retired.
Yeah.
So he didn't take his name out of the testing pool, and I don't know if he just was waiting.
Maybe it has something that pertains to the fight, though. That fight is still not that long ago.
Yeah, maybe he was waiting to show he was clean after the fight. I mean, he was tested after the fight, though. They're tested.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying maybe it has
some
kind of scheduling.
I don't know. What I hope isn't happening is that he's just pulling this retirement thing only to score a big fight with a quote-unquote comeback, because I just find that ironic since he talks so much shit about McGregor, and then that's a McGregor move.
Yeah.
Is to retire and then have the quote-unquote comeback and never be serious. And the way he referenced his family, I thought he was pretty serious.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was a little strange
I still
at
do
that,
think he's serious. I just think that he's keeping up the testing pool for his management and everything else for like the UFC until they can like officially have to strip him. You know what I mean?
Well, he's come out and said he's not going to do that. So what, are we not going to have a champion? How long is he going to stretch that out? A fucking year trying to land one more fight with Habib? I mean, that would be some bullshit, because everything we just talked about is put on hold if the champ's not retired. Because then these are they're all still great fights, but none of them are for a title. The division hasn't changed.
Yeah, it just becomes a lot more like clear.
And are we going to wait another year? Again, no offense to all you Khabib fans out there, but are we going to wait another fucking year if he's not retired? Are we going to wait another year for another title defense? Because that's the pattern that we're in. That's
are
how
we going to have
fight.
another interim title fight?
Oh, crap. The third one. Every time he fights, he takes so long off. I really hope not. Let's not. Let's just get the division.
Well, I just
cracking,
think he's.
man.
Here's the thing. I think he's retired either way. But in the case that he does come back for a fight, I don't think it's at 155 pounds. And I don't, because we all saw how hard it was for him to make 155 pounds just a couple weeks ago. You know what I mean? Like, he struggled big time on the scale. He was looking like he was going to faint.
No, for real. Yeah, he got like helped off the scale a little bit and stuff. It's a tough cut.
Also, the GSP fight is still on the table at 170 pounds.
Yeah, because that didn't happen at 55.
And that does not need any kind of belt for any kind of specialty.
No, it shouldn't happen at 55. I don't want to see a teeny tiny diminished GSP. Just do it at 65 or do it at 70.
70. 70 makes sense.
There's with no belt attached, just a legacy fight.
Yeah, it's a legacy fight, yeah.
Like, they don't need to fucking make it for a belt.
Well, no.
I'm tired of divisions getting held up no matter who it is.
Yeah.
You know, if they make Conor Poirier for the title and Conor wins, I want to see that fool defend pretty quick, too. I don't want to see him take a fucking year off and go through the strip and the bullshit either.
Yeah, no.
Like,
that's the last thing we need at lightweight, because that's what we keep getting at lightweight.
Yeah.
Because it went from Conor to Khabib, and both of them have like so much leverage against the UFC that they've just both were like, after they won, they're like, "Fuck you,
we need people to fight."
You know what I mean?
Like, let's get cracking, because honestly, boxing right now is more interesting than UFC, because boxing's putting on big fights. UFC's
here's
putting out
my
events
theory.
is
Here's
what the
my
UFC is
theory
doing.
about that. I think a big part of why boxing's putting on all these big fights because they've been away so long, and the UFC's continue to go. Like, the boxing's got all these fights on deck because they had all of them already, and they all just got canceled. Whereas
they have
the
a lot
UFC's
more.
just
They have a lot
going.
more champions.
Yeah, true.
A lot more stars. as a
Don't
sport
even
in
get me
general,
started on that.
you know, because then we're comparing an entire sport to
Yeah.
just the UFC, which is simply basically a league.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, but
So I think that about wraps up like our lightweight discussion.
yeah, and the only other really thing of consequence on that card was the Williams versus Al Hassan fight, which I
Dude,
was super
Chaos
excited
Williams
about beforehand.
Brought the fucking hammer down.
Against a dude that's no joke. Al
Dude.
Hassan is a machine. That dude is a KO machine.
Both of them are.
Yeah.
Dude. Quote of the night, though.
It's a 30-second KO for those of you that missed it. It came out. Chaos Williams.
Hit him with the fucking, like,
With a
the
beautiful
nastiest
right
straight
hand.
I've ever seen, bro.
Like a beautiful right hand.
That was
like
disgusting. Right down the pipes.
right down the pipe, straight right hand.
Blasted him.
Laid this dude out.
He was fucking stiff, too.
Yeah, he was
on
doing
the
he was doing
ground.
the stiff board and the
no.
foot twitch, man.
Yeah.
It was tough.
It was rough. Then he said, keep sleeping on me, and the doctor's going to wake you up. That's the best quote ever.
Oh, dude, you can say corny lines and they're
Yeah.
cool when you do
Yeah.
shit like that.
Oh, yeah, dude. For sure. That shit's corny, but at the same time, like...
No, it's cool when you
it's
pull off
cool
the
as fuck
KO,
when
dude.
You just knocked him out in 30 seconds.
It was funny because beforehand he was like Mad Dog, and I was like, bro, you're trying too hard.
Dude, he
I
was
like,
funny,
dude.
though. He was killing me, bro.
I was
stare
laughing
down.
beforehand. He seemed real corny. I was like, whatever. You're corny. And then after that, I was like, okay, you can be corny, bro.
Yeah, he's a
Mad Dog all you want. You
he's
just
a fucking
KO'd the
Terminator.
motherfucker in 30 seconds.
He's the Terminator, bro. He was just fucking
And he KO'd a
detailing his
legit
subset.
fighter. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I've been on the Alisson train for a minute. That dude's
Yeah.
awesome. But, dude, he got
Slept.
He got slept in a very memorable way.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
50K in the
when
bank.
you're doing the stiff leg twitch,
Yeah,
that's tough. I mean, he was
it was
still,
so clean, too. Like, he had his guard up, and he still got that
Oh
punch.
yeah, it
in
was right through the guard. And he I mean, by the time Chaos had given his interview in the octagon or whatever, or done the thing with Buffer and then left and was back giving his interview in the back, Al-Hassan was still sitting in the cage.
Really?
Yeah, still
Damn.
sitting there like they had just got him up.
Damn.
Yeah,
God damn.
he was laid out, and that was exciting, man. It looks like we got a new contender at 170 because that's his second fight in the UFC and his second 30-second or less KO.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in the same division that Chimaev is in.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Well, Chimaev's fighting Leon.
Yeah, he's sleeping on Leon, too.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
This is Leon Edwards' moment. He's been out talking some shit. He says he's going to fucking shut Dana's boy up. He was like, they always do this shit in the UFC. I'm putting an end to it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
I'm on board. Let's see it, Leon. I've been waiting for you to do something all this time. Are you going to do anything ever to make someone interested in you, please?
Yeah, please.
He's a good fighter. So let's see. But
dude, you know what's funny?
Getting some contenders.
So that BT Sport that thing they did on Leon that we were talking about, the commercial.
Yeah.
Dude, they were talking about it on Ariel. They were like, they found it, and they're like, oh my god, this is like the best freaking promo for Leon we've ever seen. It's like, why is the UFC doing this? Why is it BT Sport?
Dude, solid questions. That was very good. UFC can't promote. I don't know. Yeah. I'm hoping that changes a little bit once we get past December and they hit their fucking 45 event mark. They get their Disney $750 million, and then maybe we can go back to like a little bit more calm, quit trying to rush out events and just get them done thing to get to the magic number.
But here's the problem. So what, it's 42 events every year, right?
Something, yeah.
How many years is the freaking... How long do they have that TV?
But they miss the 2 months, though. I mean, that's the only reason it's rushed, is they miss the 2 months.
Well, yeah, because there's 56 weeks in a year, right?
52.
52.
Stoner.
Yeah. Stoned.
But yeah, they fucking missed 2 solid months of putting events out, which
so
put them behind.
weeks.
Which if they don't hit that number, they don't get the $750 million, as we've discussed on prior episodes, in case you've missed it listening. So maybe they'll ease back on just anybody on a card.
Sure.
We'll see. Because that basically rounds out that card, man.
Well, but the only problem with that, what you're saying, though, is like early in the year, you're going to have like guys like Connor, guys like, they're going to garnish a lot of revenue that is not going to be there without the crowds. So what do you do then?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we've got Earl Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia, December 5th at Texas Stadium. Another fight with a crowd.
Last weekend. Well, let's transition into that also.
Because that kills that card.
Yeah, it kills that card. Yeah, so, last weekend we also had some boxing. We had Terence Crawford. He came out, made pretty easy work of Kell Brook. But the reason I bring this up as well is there was a 100-person crowd that quarantined in the MGM hotel and were tested and everything, and then it was all pretty much close friends and family, plus like, who knows who their other people were. But 100 people supposedly. So that's something, you know what I mean?
I'm behind it 100%.
Dude.
I think it makes a huge difference having a crowd at a fight, be it 100 people.
Yeah.
Or whatever they can do. It's better than none.
Yeah,
this
true.
dead silence thing that, like I
want to
said,
talk about something crazy futuristic real quick.
Huh.
So, speaking of this whole crowds and stadiums and everything, the Oakland, well, I guess not Oakland anymore. They're the fucking San Francisco Warriors have this. So they're owned basically by a tech billionaire who's like in like the medical business, right?
Okay.
So he's supposedly developed this test for COVID, where it's a swab and you figure out if you're positive or negative inside 15 minutes.
Mm.
And he is willing to generate the revenue to ticket sales for his new stadium they just built. They're willing to pay for have everyone tested at the door, wait 15 minutes, and then be let in for them to cover their freaking revenue shares, because they know without the crowds they're not going to make any money this year.
Yeah.
So I think the UFC, someone like that, they got to start thinking shit like this. Like, just waiting it out kind of shit is just not...
Bro.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's affecting the fight experience for me. I can only speak with my personal experience, but I have found the commentary and the commentating on fights to be almost unbearable, and I've been sitting here trying to figure out why. It's because there's no crowd. There's no distraction, so these guys feel even more obligated to just keep fucking yapping about anything. Anything to fill the silence.
Fill the airspace, yeah.
Like, and maybe they're being told to do that.
They probably
I don't
are.
know. It's not. I mean, I like these guys, but dude, I've been watching the shit on mute, and I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out if my taste changed or what happened, and that's what I think it is. I think they're trying to fill the silence.
They have to be because like, they're talking about other shit way too much.
Way too much, dude. Between that and them flashing up people saying stupid things on Twitter that for some reason they want us to watch in the middle of the fucking fight, I don't get that either.
Yeah, that part.
It's just really distracting.
Yeah, it is. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. So I'm hoping that if the UFC gets on this crowd thing, maybe the commentating can just go back to like normal.
Well, it's like that in every sport because in boxing it's the same thing. They're doing the same thing. They're filling the freaking air with what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, dude, I don't need to hear people talk nonstop over the fucking fight. Like,
yeah.
And they're not even. It's not like they're saying what's happening. It's not like, oh, he just slipped to left and he's done a great. No, they're talking about like.
Well, coming into the fight, dude. Coming into the fight, we interviewed his first grade teacher, and she said that he could barely write his name. It's like, what the
she
fuck
had to
does
work
that
with him
mean?
after school, and then she developed a real bond. And then now here's her on Twitter right here. There's her tweet. See it?
Like,
fuck.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, that's what's crazy is like now that we do have like small crowds in the Crawford fight, you could hear his family going ham the whole time, dude.
Yeah,
they were going ham. Like,
I like a little bit bigger. BKFC had about 500, and I think to me that was enough where I heard them cheering pretty often on the screen, and that helped out.
Well, you want to hear a funny thing? So when the NBA did their bubble, at the last 2 months when it was the playoffs, they allowed families in, but they were told they were not allowed to cheer.
That's weird.
Yeah, and then Rondo's brother heckled Russell Westbrook and got thrown out of the bubble because him and Russell Westbrook were about to fight each other.
But players get heckled all the time.
Exactly.
In the regular NBA season.
Regular NBA season.
Like,
so
you can't even shoot a free throw without 100 fucking people waving shit in their fucking line of vision.
Exactly.
Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, so it was weird. So, like, I don't know. It made no sense. They had a crowd, though. I don't even know what
to say to that, dude. That's weird.
They had a crowd, though.
Well, hopefully the UFC gets on board with this.
Yeah, shit.
Is all I'm saying. Speaking from a fan's perspective, I don't want to get into debates about safety and this and that because we can see other sports.
Well,
doing
shit.
it,
If you can get people tested and you know it's a bunch of people that are negative, that's why it's cool. Make it like you were saying, like 100 to like 400 range.
You gotta fill MGM Grand and all this stuff.
Dude, this is the time. This is the time to have one of your fight nights at like the Pearl at the Palms or something like that. You know what I mean?
Or an
like,
outdoor venue with a smaller crowd.
Mm-hmm. Just like something a little bit smaller, you'll still generate buzz and revenue from, sales and everything that, because the people that are going to be there are the people that can afford to be there. You could honestly, there's ways. Trust me.
Absolutely.
There's definitely ways. Like, so yeah, that's the thing. It's like they just built this brand new fucking stadium here. It's like the T-Mobile Arena, and they were supposed to have all these great fights there, and they've had some great fights, but now we're like last night's fight, last weekend's fight, would have been nice to have, in front of a crowd at T-Mobile for fucking Terence Crawford, trying to get his name out there a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But instead we get 100 people, and they're all his, his friends, family, and close people to the event, I guess.
Well, we saw, switching kind of back into just the overall boxing, the fight itself, we saw Crawford get another win here. I don't think anybody's really too surprised with that. I mean, Kell Brook is a good fighter, but Crawford is Crawford. So the first round I actually scored for Brook.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the thing.
The second round I did as well.
Yeah. Well, Terrence came out in southpaw. Oh, no, he came out orthodox. Yeah, he came out orthodox when he is a southpaw.
Yeah.
And then it was like Kell did this like weird stance where he was super like heavy on his front foot, and his stance was super long, and he was just keeping him at bay with the jab. And Kell's naturally the bigger fighter. He fought up at middleweight, and
he put a lot of weight back on.
Yeah, exactly. And he's had problems in the past with weight cuts. So he's naturally just going to be bigger than a lot of these guys. So coming into the fight, you got to think that what was weird though, at the end of the day, is like they're both the same size. Like Kell's a little bit bigger, but actually Terrence has the bigger reach.
Right.
So that's where you actually saw how Terrence took over. So when Terrence failed at going orthodox, and I think it was the third round he went back to southpaw.
Yep, third round. He did
then
at the end of the second, and he started the third that way, and then the fourth he comes out and just lays some power punches on him.
Yeah.
And the ref, you got a standing 8 count.
Yeah.
And then Crawford went right back to work, and these were,
Yeah. And then he hit him with some bombs, and the rope saved him from falling on the ground.
Yeah. And then the ref waved it off, rightfully so. Brook talking about retirement here, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And
Well, he was talking about retirement before this fight, because before he was actually scheduled to fight Amir Khan, and then he quote-unquote retired. And then now he's obviously moved on from that. And, I just don't see who's left for him to fight.
No. And he had a lot of time off.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fight in his career, a lot of fights. He's got, 36-3 or something like that?
But as far as Crawford goes, I mean, he's with Lomachenko losing.
Yeah.
Crawford has inherited he's moved up to the basic consensus pound for pound. That's what a lot of that's just if you go listen to a lot of. I mean, that's what they're saying all throughout the broadcast.
Yeah.
Now, in my personal opinion, I don't know. I tend to put Fury up at the just overall top of this list, but whatever. That's just debatable, just like the GOAT is.
Exactly.
But it has put him in a very difficult spot as far as his next fight goes.
Yeah.
Because of the unique position that he is in. I mean, number one, he is under contract to Top Rank. And unfortunately, Top Rank
more fights.
does not have really anybody at 147 of note for him to fight, where PBC has around 70% of the top 10, arguably, of that division. So, and like you said, he's got 2 fights or 11 months left on his contract. And they're not getting along right now, like Bob Arum and Crawford.
Yeah, Bob Arum came out with some really fucked up statements after the fight as well.
He did. And then we found out Mike Coppinger in The Atlantic reported that Crawford's lawyer had sent a letter to Top Rank back in September just complaining about the way that Crawford's been promoted specifically. And then, like you just mentioned, Bob Arum comes out and he says all this shit about how it's basically on what? Crawford to promote himself. It's on Crawford.
Yeah, he said he needs to promote himself like, he named off all the other champions of, the last 10 to 15 years. And it was like, he needs to promote himself like Mayweather. He needs to be like Pacquiao. He needs to be like, he even said the young cat, what the fuck's his, of course, Teofimo Lopez. He just said, he needs to, put himself out there like that. And then he goes, I'm going to go bankrupt trying to promote this guy. Like,
so he comes out and shits all over.
He said,
one of the arguably top pound fighters.
He goes, I can build a nice house in Beverly Hills for the amount of money I've spent trying to promote this guy and lost.
Arum's such a prick.
That's just a dick.
Dude is just a dick. But now we see why if you look into it a little bit, because he's clearly upset about this letter that he got from Crawford's lawyer. Yeah. And so, but the thing is the time frame here, because you've got 11 months. Okay, so you can have Crawford decide to fight again, or you could have him hold out because it's really not that far. It's not so long a break that he might just hold out.
Yeah.
But that also means that PBC is probably not going to break the freeze out that they have going on here and offer him a deal if they can just wait it out for 11 months and potentially wind up with him anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So at this moment, I mean, as next, if we could pick what fight for him is good, obviously it's what Earl Spence.
Yeah,
right?
Earl Spence is always going to be at the top of the list. I also like the Sean Porter fight. Didn't they give Sean Porter like the opportunity to negotiate a fight with Keith Thurman? It just like fell through, or not Keith Thurman with
Porter. PBC gave Porter permission to negotiate for the fight with Crawford, but just nothing ever happened with it. We don't have any information as to why.
It kind of seems like it fell through. I think Porter's a dangerous fight for him.
Porter's definitely a dangerous fight. Thing is, though, you've got Spence, who's set to defend his title against Danny Garcia, as we mentioned earlier on the show on December 5th at AT&T Stadium, right?
Yeah.
And Spencer's turning 31 in January as well. So he's right in his prime, but he's not a young gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, Earl's like still like in the midst of his prime for sure.
So if he wins that fight, Porter might be in line for a rematch with Spence. They had a great fight in 2019. Yeah. So that might not have, the Earl Spence might not happen. Yeah. The PBC has got, like we mentioned, they got Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and the aforementioned Porter. So there's really only three choices for Crawford right now. One of them is going to be to stay at Top Rank and stay at welterweight.
It's just dumb.
Right. And you've got Pacquiao, who's worked with Top Rank in the past.
Yeah.
Crawford definitely wants to fight. However,
he doesn't want to fight him right now.
He hasn't worked at Top Rank since 2017 when he lost to Jeff Horn.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's quite interested, according to both MMA outlets and boxing outlets. He's quite interested in the Conor McGregor fight.
Well, and here's the thing too: is last time he fought for Top Rank, he got fucking screwed.
Right, it's a Jeff Horn thing, exactly.
like that Jeff Horn fight was bullshit. We all know it. Like we joke about it and say, "Oh, well, Conor can beat him because of the Jeff Horn thing," but like. In all reality, we know that was a robbery.
Yeah, but if Top Rank could offer Crawford that fight, he might stay there longer because that's a fight he's expressed interest in getting, and it's a fight he's probably favored to win. But again, Pacquiao, everyone is saying on both sides of the aisle. It's not just Conor and Pacquiao saying it. Like if you go read like on Bad Left Hook or some of these other sites, when they talk about Pacquiao, they say, yeah, this dude seems to want to fight Conor McGregor.
Which is honestly, it's more profitable than fighting Terence Crawford because everyone, he's going to be the underdog.
Yeah, of course.
He's the B side. He's not going to get maybe legacy wise he's not the B side, but I think going in negotiations with how Top Rank treats their guys versus their the whole reason none of these fights get done is because these guys come to Top Rank and then the negotiations fall apart
right.
there. You know what I mean? It's just like. They always are going to favor their guys. So naturally, I feel like Pacquiao probably, he could take the fight, but I just think the Conor fight makes more sense financially.
Me too. And outside of that big fight, there's not a whole lot the Top Rank can offer him. There's Virgil Ortiz Jr., that's Golden Boy's dude. He's only 22, though. He's very raw still. He's 6.
You don't want to tear up a guy like that.
Yeah.
That early. It's just.
He said he wants to fight Crawford, but I don't know. That would be a lot, especially after they just lost Alvarez, right?
Yeah.
They got Ryan Garcia. I don't know. They got Ortiz.
No, it would be Mikey Garcia.
I don't know.
Mikey would not fight. He'd get his ass.
No, there's Mikey Garcia's out there too, but he's not going to be looking good. He could rematch old Meme Machine, the Greek dude.
Yeah.
I butcher his last name every time.
Yeah, don't even try it.
Kavalasukis something. I'm sorry. But he already won that fight, so yeah. I don't know. That's his options kind of there, or he could stay at Top Rank and he can move up in weight.
Yeah.
Okay, but they don't really have a lot to offer him over there either.
Well, here's the thing. There's no
Patrick.
There's no super fights. There. They're all fights. There's no fights that are super enticing. You know what I mean?
Teixeira said he's down for the fight, but that's really not that big a fight.
Yeah.
And he's got a mandatory coming up anyways with Brian Castano, that he should have done already. So let's say that he beats that guy and they go ahead and make that fight for him. What is it after that? That's going to be summer of 2021, and then what? They don't have anybody else at 154 because guess where they're all at 154 as well? PBC. You've got Charlo, Williams, Hurd.
Yep.
Rosario, Tony Harrison.
I was going to say Harrison, too.
So.
It just doesn't make any sense. I think in his best interest, it would be maybe to take 2 of these lower-level fights, get them done quick, and peace out.
Either that or wait out the contract and go to PBC and accept what's likely to be a lowball offer.
At age 33, though, do you want to take 11 months off?
I don't know. So. The big fights are at PBC. If he 100%. Wants the big fight, he's probably going to have to take a lowball number. We don't know what they'll offer him, but because they don't need him, he needs them, and they know it.
He doesn't necessarily have to go to PBC though. He could go to another company that just is willing to negotiate with them.
That's a possibility. I don't know how that would work, but boxing, who knows? But or he could just kind of stay where he is right now, which is this weird position of being arguably one of the best fighters
He can go to Showtime. Showtime's been given out some large contracts in the past.
Let's see what happens. I hope that You think it's 2 fights. I've heard it's 1 fight, but we don't know the details.
Yeah.
There's conflicting reports on exactly what
Well,
it is, but we
that's
do know
contracts.
that it's...
You know, contracts, no one ever really knows how many fights are left. You know?
As of this recording, and the most recent report in The Atlantic, it's 11 months. It's October 2021 would be the time deadline, and that we seem to know fairly concrete. So
now the question becomes, though, does he have any clauses in his contract similar to like a UFC or someone like that, where they have like a certain amount of
agreement or something?
matching agreement or negotiating rights or something like that?
Who knows, man?
Because a guy like, you know, with guys like top rank has been around forever, dude. Like we're literally
Bob
like
Arum is
Bob Arum is like
156 years
300
old.
years old, bro. Like he's been through it all.
Legitimately, he's in his 80s, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got, you know, his freaking contracts are probably fucking filled with all kinds of bullshit.
Probably. Well, let's talk a little bit more about boxing. You want to talk about contracts? Because we just had the other guy we were talking about a moment ago when you talk about the greatest fighter in boxing, arguably Tyson Fury. He was scheduled to fight in a fight he's probably going to win against an undefeated, youngster on December 5th, because he and his team believed that the rematch clause in the Wilder contract had expired, according to him, and he didn't want to wait around any longer. And now at the last minute, you have Wilder taking him to arbitration, which cut that fucking fight right off on December 5th. Yeah. So for those of you that probably don't follow boxing contracts, I'll recap it real quick. They had a rematch clause after their fight in which Fury handily won. But the rematch was supposed to be exercised by July. And then due to an injury, it was bumped to October. And then it was still not set by October. Fury waited around a little while longer and said, look, I want to fight. I am moving on with this. And then boom, abruptly scheduled a fight for December. And then here at the last minute, we have Wilder coming in on the heels of all these wild accusations that he made, which we discussed last week, which we're not going to rehash here. So, unfortunately, that fight has now been canceled. It's not like everybody were screaming for that matchup that Fury had. No. However, we just wanted to see him. He wanted to get back in action.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who loves to get 2 or 3 fights a year.
Absolutely. And then after this, he wanted, assuming that AJ gets by his mandatory challenger.
Well, they already have
that fight.
They already have a contract for 2 fights in 2021. Which, who knows what's going to happen now? It could be pushed back with this Wilder business.
And hearing this noise, look, I am a fan of Deontay Wilder. Have been, continue to be.
Hard to watch as a fan of Deontay Wilder.
This breakdown here, this meltdown has been hard to watch. And then hearing some of these fans and seeing some of these Twitter responses where people are literally saying that Tyson Fury is trying to duck Deontay Wilder, which is absurd.
That's just as absurd as people saying that Israel Adesanya needs to sign the contract for Paulo Costa.
Right. This is ridiculous. This is silly talk.
Yeah.
I get it. You're fans. I understand. But at least have some basis behind your shit talk.
Exactly.
He won both fights, arguably.
Both fights.
He cleanly won the second fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody but Deontay Wilder believes these claims that Deontay Wilder is making. So it's unfortunate, though.
It's real damning for fucking a lot of people. If any of that stuff was taken seriously by, let's just say the Nevada State Athletic Commission now just, starts investigating his camp.
To see if Mark Breland really spiked his water.
Yeah.
Or
if they were
Fury had loaded gloves or whatever. Moonbeams shot down and zapped his fucking power. I swear to God. It all started with that, my costume weighed too much. My 42-pound costume sapped my energy in a 10-minute walk. Dude, get the fuck out of here. Every boxer I know trains with a weight vest, and there's video of you training with a 40-pound weight vest for hours running. People in the Army run with rucksacks on their back, 70-pound weights. I mean, stop. And it's just slowly gotten worse from there, apparently, behind the scenes, until it erupts on social media.
He detailed that on Joe Rogan about how he trains with the fucking with the training vest on.
Right.
And shit. Like that shit's.
I hope he doesn't pull a Ronda Rousey on us. And by that, what I don't mean that, like some people say Ronda wasn't skilled. I don't mean that at all. Deontay's he's a skilled fighter.
Yeah.
And he's a legitimate champ. What I mean is you lose a fight, then you can't fucking handle it. You have
fall
a
off the
public
deep end.
meltdown, and then that's the end of your career.
Yep.
That's what I mean. And I don't want to see that for Wilder, man. Like, come on, dude. It's not over.
Yeah.
You got beat. Fix it. Move forward.
Here's the thing, though. I don't know if he is progressed enough, like, technically, because he was, used so much of his power to get to the top. Like, I don't know if technically he's ever going to be able to catch up.
I don't think you're not with someone like Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury's been a pure boxer his whole life. Deontay Wilder, as we know, came to boxing late and possesses amazing skills, superhuman power, which doesn't mean Wilder can't continue and have a very successful career. I don't think he's going to beat Tyson Fury, though.
No.
I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately for him. But that rounds out that with the heavyweights. We just have to wait and see what happens with the arbitration. There's supposed to be a ruling within like 6 days, as far as I know. So by next episode, we should have some information on that.
All right. Now let's talk about the next thing that's reared its ugly head in boxing. So we had the Joshua Franco and the Andrew Maloney fight.
Yeah, this is on the undercard of the Crawford
Yeah, the
Brook fight.
I guess,
the co-main event, whatever you want to
whatever
say.
you call it. Yeah.
And this was a rematch.
Mm-hmm.
And
bullshit.
It's an embarrassment for Nevada. The fight ends
In a no contest.
in a no contest when it should have been a win for Maloney.
Yeah.
What happened was he landed a right hand where his thumb, or left, was it right? Whatever. He lands a punch, and his thumb goes in the eye. And
But it wasn't his thumb, though. The gloves are curled, so it was like...
right, just the part of the thumb where the glove is, which is perfectly legal. There's nothing
legal,
illegal here. It's a punch in the eye. That's what happens when you got a giant fucking glove on the end of your
Yeah.
hand and you punch somebody in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes parts of it go in your fucking eyeball.
Yeah.
It's a punch.
Exactly.
Well, for whatever reason, the fight gets stopped and it gets reviewed.
Supposed headbutts
for
were said,
for headbutts.
which there was.
And the Nevada State Athletic Commission takes 20 some odd minutes,
26 to be
26 minutes to review this, calls it a headbutt, and rules that he keeps his title, and it's a no contest, and
'cause it
Maloney
didn't
is
go 4
denied
rounds.
his title win.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It was an embarrassment. Everybody on the announcement team, they broke it down. I mean, they had the video. I'm like,
Well, and here's the problem here. Is now, if you're Joshua Franco's team, you're not coming back to the negotiating
of
table.
course they're not.
No. They know what happened in there.
Yeah, I mean, he got the bit of the glove in his eye, and then Maloney noticed it, and like he said, he kept popping that jab out like 50 fucking times.
Dude, yeah, he hit him with the shit.
And to the eye looked like that.
Yeah.
No headbutts causing that.
And here's the thing,
this was a sham.
the supposed headbutts that they showed were not headbutts. They were like, when you're in the clinch and your head is touching and you pivot away. Like,
right.
Like it wasn't like
They weren't a clash of heads. Not
you know
even.
what I mean? Like, no, it was like a pivot, moved over to the angle and like barely touched heads, but like it wasn't like a headbutt or like even something that would, do what happened to his eye.
Right. It was a shame.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Is see someone come back, get the rematch, win the title, and then be denied it, and then to see his chances of getting a third fight are very, very
slim to
slim.
none.
Slim to none.
Bullshit.
Bad look for boxing there. Clear as day to anybody watching it what had happened. The
I wonder
commentating team broke it down.
I wonder if he can challenge that, like in court.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because that was bullshit. Like, bullshit. It's terrible. And they honestly did it to bail that ref out.
I don't know why else they would. We all saw it. We all got to look at the same thing the commission was looking at. And we got to have the commentators break it down frame by frame as to what was happening. I mean, it's really no controversy.
Yeah, everyone on the commentating table was saying it should be a championship win for Maloney.
Yeah, that's a TKO, sir.
Psych.
So, keeping on the
Just
theme
terrible.
of boxing, though, that about rounds out that card.
Yeah.
Overall, entertaining fight from Crawford. A shame for Maloney being denied the title. We did have another boxing-related event over this past weekend before we look ahead to next, which was the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships 14, which unfortunately, the big fight we were looking forward to and discussed last week, which was Dat Win. His fight gets canceled due to COVID. That's a shame, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And I guess the silver lining of that cloud is because Johnny Bedford also fell out to injury. We're likely to get that original fight put back on.
Although they did say Johnny Bedford's hurt pretty bad.
Like he might be out even longer.
Well, they said that he was going to be out at least, another 6 weeks, like till he could start doing anything else. So.
Well, we'll see. But we did see Louis Palomino, win in a devastating fashion over Jim Allers.
Gave Allers the works.
And, I mean, like Palomino said afterwards, Allers at the beginning for a minute had been the face of the BKFC as far as like MMA fighters making the transition over and having good success. And he went out and knocked him out in 44 seconds, son.
Yep. Palomino's now, 3-0 in BKFC? And he is 40 years old, correct?
Yep. This to me is a sport that age really plays less and less of a fucking factor. Like it's such a narrow focus on what you're doing that, like we mentioned a little bit last week, Frank Mir, like he was commentating at this event. He's going to come in and fight, and I think Mir could, with his size and this limited things, this limited skill set that it requires. I think Mir can have some success. I mean, Joey Beltran's the heavyweight champ. You know how much bigger Frank Mir is than Joey Beltran? Like, he's huge. Frank Mir is a gigantic man.
I thought Frank Mir was still in Bellator.
No, he's done. They released him.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So he is free. He commentated. He did a good job commentating as well.
Yeah, he's always been a good commentator.
Like Mir's not super tall,
WEC
but like
days.
if you ever see him in person, like we've seen him before,
dude, he's a big motherfucker.
He's really thick too. Like if you look at him from the side, he's a big motherfucker. He's a very dense man. He's he's a fucking brick house, dude.
Yeah, he's a brick shit house.
Like, I don't know if Beltran could fucking get in on him. Yeah. Like, it would be a very interesting fight.
I don't know how much I trust Frank's striking, though.
Frank's striking was always suspect in MMA because you got to be so worried about the takedown. You know what I mean? Without the takedown, we'd have to see it to be certain, but there's the potential that it's a lot cleaner than we realize it is.
Yeah, true.
Because he doesn't. You can keep your fucking hands up where they're supposed to be. You can keep your punches a little bit more crisp and just not. You can keep your eyes where they're supposed to be when you're boxing instead of, shifting down so much. Yeah, we'll see, man. I like what BKFC is doing. We also got what was it? How fast was that KO? The fastest KO in all of combat sports, I do believe.
Yuli Diaz pulls out the 3-second KO. Literally, scratch line, bow, with the overhand, knocks him out cold.
Out was cold. Not even like a TKO. It was slept him 3 seconds off the scratch line.
That was disgusting.
Yuli Diaz, new record holder for combat sports KOs.
George Masvidal's hot right now.
Yeah, he is. But man, so I found out a little bit more information about BKFC and how their pay-per-views work, and I'm gonna bring it up since I talked about it last week. You do get the app for $4.99, and you do get streamed events, but it doesn't include their pay-per-views. But that pay-per-view last week, which I just forgot about and didn't order, and by the time I remembered, it was too late. It was only $20 though, and
it's not bad.
We were looking over the stats. I believe every single fight on that card was a knockout or a TKO. Yeah. I mean,
I think there was one towel thrown in or something.
Fucking like that, solid entertainment there, folks.
Straight knockouts.
For me, $20 is
the main event was 44 seconds.
Yeah. And I'm not mad about that if you're seeing 9 other fights, and it was only $20. It's not like you're fucking paying, like back in the day when Tyson was king. People used to complain about paying, $65, and he goes out and beats like Spinks in 90 seconds, and they're like, what the fuck? I don't feel that with BKFC. Yeah. I dig it. So that was some exciting action. I noticed that the boxing websites are starting to give BKFC a lot of press.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I'm happy to see that because MMA kind of, but most of the the online boxing sources like Bad Left Hook and others and SB Nation were covering BKFC and some of it live while it was happening, just like you get it in a lot of the MMA sites.
That's dope.
We did have some bleed over, that fastest KO made it onto most of the MMA sites that I checked.
It made it everywhere. It made it
And
ESPN. I'm pretty
Palomino being, with his MMA pedigree, got a little
yeah.
bit of press. But
sure. Yeah, for sure.
hopefully that continues to grow. I don't know when BKFC 15 is, but we'll be talking about it for sure.
Uh-huh. Well, let's shift over back to MMA. We'll talk about we had Bellator 252 where we saw the champion Pitbull ultimately getting the quick knockout.
Yeah, impressive performance.
Yeah. Well, that moves him on to the semifinal where he'll take on Emmanuel Sanchez, who was able to defeat Daniel White, which those kind of fights are always like a toss up. Like I feel like he kind of just broke his like
His will?
if his whole sequence, like he broke down his whole offense. You know what I mean? Like when you have a guy who he has an answer for everything you have. I feel like that's why Emmanuel Sanchez had for him. He was in his face the whole time. And then, so those two guys are going to be fighting in the semifinals. And then now this weekend we have Bellator 253, where you have Darren Caldwell taking on AJ McKee in the semifinals on that side of the bracket.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange to me considering there's no way Pitbull's fighting in a month from now. Or
Yeah, I don't
something.
understand the timing on that. I would just chalk it up to maybe COVID had some
maybe
mix things up for him.
Yeah, true.
Because otherwise, you're right. It makes no sense in how one bracket's playing out so much faster than the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
But whatever. We'll chalk it up to that.
So this is honestly the best fight of the tournament as so far, in my opinion.
This last one we saw with Pitbull?
No, this fight coming up, Darren Caldwell versus AJ McKee.
Oh, yeah. That's a great fight.
That is a fucking fight right there. It's like what we were talking about before is like Darren Caldwell kind of had a couple hiccups a year or so ago, but now he's starting to look himself again, and he's competing even in wrestling and all kinds of different shit, and really getting, he knows his prime is coming towards an end. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's up in years. Whereas you got like AJ McKee, who's a guy who's super young, who's a real big prospect and has been for the last year or so, and then he's gonna come in here and fight a former champion, and this could literally make his whole name. You know what I mean? This could be the signature win right here. So, man, and both guys fight pretty similar.
That's an exciting fight.
Yeah.
I like these tournaments that Bellator's been doing. Now, a guy that wasn't in this tournament, but in that weight class of featherweight, was also on the card and had a really impressive performance, which is your boy Aaron Pico.
Yeah, Aaron Pico.
And man, all the things that I said in past podcasts that I'd like to see Aaron Pico do.
He did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. On track over there at fucking Greg Jackson's camp.
Yeah.
Using the wrestling, using some ground and pound, using the boxing.
The finish was nice too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Putting it together.
Well,
Sounded much better after the fight.
Yeah.
Like the kid's fucking
Got his
head on straight, ready to go, man.
Yeah.
I think he's right back to being every bit the prospect he was
mix.
and more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackson's is the kind of camp you need to be at, and you got to be the type of fighter that can be like, okay,
embrace it. Yeah.
Be like, okay, you're right.
The change.
I'm fucking up, and I'm gonna fucking fix it here.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
So kudos to Aaron Pico. Good performance.
Yep. And then another guy on this Thursday is also Benson Henderson's coming back. He's fighting Jason Jackson, who's another pretty seasoned vet in Bellator.
So the upcoming this next Bellator card with Caldwell and McGee, right? Yeah. Benson.
I don't like Benson at welterweight though, dude.
No.
I'll tell you that.
He's been on a quiet win streak. It was so quiet I didn't even realize it.
Well, and then
and then
your
he
boy
loses.
Michael Chandler derails that.
Michael Chandler derails the
round.
streak, and now he's back up at 170. And I don't know. He's pretty small for 170 pounds.
I know.
I don't know about Benson anymore.
Well, he's kind of in the twilight.
There's another thing. Like when he left the UFC, I was surprised, and then I was like, well, I guess they were right because he went over and he kind of floundered a bit at first, but
yeah.
here we are.
Here's the thing: is like these are the kind of fights that could make a guy like Jason Jackson's career because
Yeah.
he's a tough prospect. He's had a close. He lost to Ed Ruth. This is his only loss in Bellator.
No shame in
He's
losing
got
to Ed Ruth.
none at all. He's got 4 other wins in Bellator, and he's coming off a win against Jordan Mean, who's a former UFC veteran. You know what I mean?
Well, solid.
He was another prospect who was a few years ago in the UFC. People thought was really going to do something. Now he's over in Bellator, and those kind of wins they add up. And maybe if a win like possibly over Benson Henderson, you could be thinking this guy's right back in the conversation. You know what I mean?
For sure. I like his chances, honestly. I'm really, like you said, Benson's in his twilight.
Yeah.
I haven't watched him fight in a long time, I'll be honest. I haven't seen any of his fights since, it's quite a while. Does he still do the toothpick in his mouth in Bellator? Do they allow that? He's still rocking
Well, not
that shit?
in the fight, but in the fucking.
He's not pulling it in the fight?
Nah.
That always tripped me out back in the day.
Yeah, I think he's only fought like twice with it in.
It used to be
is fucking
every
crazy.
UFC fight he had that shit in.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Until they kind of found out about it, and
Until
then
they
he
found
kept
out,
it
and they're
undercover.
like, what the fuck?
And
you
then they
doing?
saw it on camera after he kept it undercover. And then he left the UFC, and I didn't know what happened after that. Such an odd thing.
Yeah.
But finally, there was another combat sports athlete that I don't know a lot about, but I know competed this past weekend. But Jordan Burroughs was on the scene.
Yeah,
correct?
Jordan Burroughs wrestled this weekend. He wrestled Zahid Valencia.
And who is that? Tell me about
so
Valencia.
Valencia, he's a NCAA champion, freaking 3-time California state champ. He's a guy coming out of college who, he's about to be on the world scene right now. He's got a pretty solid chance to make, there's some tough guys at his weight class, don't get me wrong. But he's got a solid chance to maybe fight to maybe make the Olympic team. You never know.
Well, how did he do against Burroughs?
He was whooping Burroughs low key at the beginning, and then Jordan Burroughs just kept that pace on him, and he tired. Obviously, he hasn't been on the mat in a year. He had some trouble with the NCAA where he failed some drug tests and missed some time, and luckily COVID happened when it did because he.
Did it save him some drug suspension time or?
No,
what happened?
He was suspended indefinitely. He was a senior, so it was like he was graduating anyways. So the NCAA tournament got canceled, which, I mean, more or less. So no one ever won his NCAA title. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So now he moves on to the world stage, and he's 100% in the mix. But Jordan Burroughs, this is just like a fun match for him either way. This is not his Olympic weight. This is him moving up a weight class just to
test himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how'd he do?
Dude, he freaking was getting whooped at the beginning, and then he put the pace on him, and then won it late, and took over in the third and won the match. It was good.
Wow.
It was a good match. Yeah, he was down, I think, 5-0 after the first period. Or 5-1, I think.
That's a pretty
And
good
then
comeback.
he came back and won 7-5.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Jordan Burroughs after also called out I can't think of his name right now. Called out the world champ at the weight class. Oh my,
Nice.
David Taylor.
David Taylor.
Yeah, he called him out, and it's another weird thing because now we're getting into that time with 2021 being the Olympic year now. It's like we're getting closer and closer to the trials and stuff like that, and Burroughs is just kind of bouncing all over the place, having all these super matches, and it's crazy to think at this age how he's just keeping this going. We're talking about a guy who's freaking at one point I think he won 49 matches in a row to start his career. It's ridiculous. Wow. It's ridiculous. He's Olympic champion, world champion, multiple-time world champion. Now he wants to get that other Olympic gold. Obviously, the last Olympics was in, what was it? Where was the last Olympics?
It'd be 4 years ago from 2021, then I guess, if they're coming up.
Yeah,
2016.
Yeah,
yeah.
Was it London, right? Something like that?
Something like that. I quit watching the Olympics a while ago.
Yeah, but he had a situation in that tournament where he wrestled a guy who was on the doping list for Russia, and
I remember some controversy about that. Yeah.
He was not supposed to. He ends up winning the gold medal, but that whole team that year was all after got caught up because now they all freaking bunch of them were on that list and somehow got some crazy exemption 2 weeks before the games, and all of them showed up and most of them medaled. It's like that's some shady shit.
Yeah, interesting.
But he ends up losing a 1-point match to him in the I think it was the quarterfinals, and then it was just Jordan Burroughs and a lot of. Here's the thing: is USA Wrestling is kind of. This is why USA Wrestling never gets the overall medal count wins in a lot of these tournaments, like Worlds and the Olympics and stuff, because the U.S. like mentality is so go for broke, like gold or nothing, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of these guys, like, if they lose like a big match by a point or something like that, they're like, "Fuck this tournament, I'm out." You know what I mean? Like they
don't want to compete for like a bronze.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jordan Burroughs has come back and won a few bronze, but you know what I mean. It's like
but overall,
a lot of the guys,
there.
that mentality is there for a lot of the guys, like at the world level and a lot of that stuff, because it's you work so hard to get to that gold medal, and if you don't get that gold medal, everything else kind of just
It's
feels
all or nothing.
Yeah, it feels cheap.
Understood.
And we kind of saw that with Burroughs in the last Olympics. He lost that 1-point match. In the second match, he just kind of, you just see in his eyes he wasn't there. He was injured also, and it was a mess. So I feel like it was just not the way he ever wanted to go out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because he could have walked away from the game there, and he didn't. Now he's he's the old man on the circuit, and he's still freaking keeping all these young dogs working hard, man.
That's for sure.
Like, we'll see it, like, this trials is going to be. Here's the thing: is like, honestly, the U.S. trials this year coming into this Olympics, a lot of weight classes, the number 1 and number 2 guys in the world are at the weight class. Like Zahid Valencia is probably just as good as a lot of people in the world, and him and David Taylor could be like a match to see who's going to go on and just dominate in the Olympics. Like, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
And so it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens.
Well, while you were summing that up, it came into my head. I know what happened with the Olympics. The last were 2016. It was supposed to be in Seoul, Korea 2020.
Yeah,
but then COVID hit, and then it's been
That's what I
postponed
was
now, so
wondering.
we're coming into it in 2021. I was thinking this is an off year, so every 4 years it wouldn't be 2021.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, is from now, if we're going to have the Olympics again in 3 years in, or we're going to keep the 4-year thing and always have it be,
I wonder if it's going to be one short one.
on an odd number instead of the even number. See how that plays out. But that's why this will bring us, rounding out the combat sports here, that's going to circle us back to UFC 255, which is the big event upcoming this weekend. And we'll round out the show discussing this card here. It's headlined by 2 title fights in the 125-pound classes. We've got the women's and the men's, obviously. And one is a replacement fight. We've got Deiveson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. Alex Perez filling in for Cody Garbrandt.
Sort of short notice, but not like crazy.
Yeah, sort of short notice, but not like Paul Felder 5-day type thing. He's had
it's
a
like
bit of
2
time
months,
here.
I think.
Yeah. And
Live dog.
look, I'm rooting for Alex Perez.
Yeah.
Like we're working closely with a soon-to-be named sponsor for the show who works with Alex Perez. And we're looking forward to, if this all works out, speaking to him in the future, hopefully having him on the show in the future, and all sorts of exciting things here in the works that we're excited to let you folks know about as they're unfolding. But so, we'll just say that we're definitely a fan. We want him to win, but man,
it's a tough fight.
Figueiredo's a very tough out.
Yeah.
So
he's a big 125
he's
also.
very large.
Yeah.
And we've seen Perez unsuccessful against Joey Benavidez.
Yeah, but I feel like he's definitely progressed since.
But he has grown since then. He's a
Yeah.
young fighter. He's progressed since then. But we've seen the size discrepancy between like Benavidez and Figueiredo is most recently on people's mind, I think.
Yeah.
And man,
Here's the
I'm
thing,
rooting
I don't
for the
think-
kid, but I don't know, dude.
Here's
That's
the thing
a
is-
tough fight, bro.
I think a big thing that also came into that fight with Benavidez is Benavidez has been through the ringer for years. I think Perez is a lot more like fresh when
He's
it comes
definitely a fresher fighter.
to yeah. And I think I don't know. With someone like Figueiredo, you got to you just have to game plan to let him gas himself out, because we've seen him gas out before.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He throws a lot of power, and he's
It's going to be a 5-round fight, obviously.
yeah,
So
and
if you
he's
can hang
kind
in
of
there.
willing to grapple and stuff like that, and he's got good jiu-jitsu, but he would rather keep it on the feet. So the question becomes like, you got to pick your poison. You know what I mean? Do you trust your grappling more to, supersede anything that he's going to do from the bottom? Or are you willing to take that chance to stand in front of him and try to tire him out? You know what I mean? My opinion, I think he should try to take him down and see what happens.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Try to tire him out
Figueiredo's
early.
dangerous on his
Take
feet,
him
man.
down. Especially before you eat too much of those big punches.
Yeah, he's freaking huge.
It's hard to prepare for that.
I can't. I just don't. He doesn't even make 25. All right, that's just the honest thing. He doesn't even make 25.
I never realized how big he was until I saw him the first time he fought Benavidez, and
yeah.
I was like, "Good grief! It's like man and boy." And
Yeah.
like what
He's
the
a
hell?
big motherfucker.
He's
dude.
very large. It's a hell of a weight cut he's pulling off.
Yeah.
So Perez is going to have his hands full, but we're rooting for you, bro. We hope
a
you
live
fucking
dog
get
for
it done.
sure.
The next fight, however, sees women's 125-pound champ, and also in the conversation of one of the greatest current active martial artists on the planet, Valentina Shevchenko, fighting
bullet.
Jennifer Maia, who, while being a solid fighter, is soundly outmatched and
Yeah, she's
probably
fun.
going to get murked pretty soundly. No offense, Jennifer.
Well, here's
but
what sucks is like at this division, like there's talent that's just like they put these run together. Like Jennifer Maia's put together a pretty freaking good run, dude. You know what I mean? Like she's a very,
Absolutely,
very
yeah.
deserving contender.
that's the difference between like a Ronda Rousey's run, where they said the division had no talent and she was so
Yeah.
far above, and say Shevchenko's, where she is very far above, but the division's very talented.
The division is growing in talent day by day.
100%.
And here's the thing: is Maia's a very deserving contender, and I think anything can happen, but Shevchenko's just it's the tough.
Yeah,
out.
it's a fight.
It's a tough out.
Everybody's a live dog in a fight.
It is a tough.
But
out.
would I bet? No. I don't know what the odds are, but it's got to be pretty ridiculous for Shevchenko.
I'll
right
bet
now.
on Alex Perez before I.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I would say
Ever.
Perez has a far greater chance of beating
Yeah.
Figueiredo than Jennifer Maia has of unthroning Valentina Shevchenko.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And, this card overall, Paul, it has a lot of fun fights on it.
Yeah.
For a change. There's been some disappointing fucking cards here lately.
Yeah.
But this one, I really don't have any complaints. We've got the 2 title fights at the top, and then we've got Mike Perry coming back to fight Tim Means, which I think that's a fun scrap.
It's a fun scrap, but I think Mike Perry, if this was not, this fight was only made because of a short notice situation.
Yes. And
Like,
it's
let's-
just a fun fight.
just
It has
that.
no
It's just a fun fight.
consequences.
There's no consequences
For
here.
Perry if he wins, which he should most
He
likely.
better win. That's the
he
thing.
can't lose here.
He
to-
can't
to
lose
Tim
this
Means.
fight.
He's
He
gonna.
has everything to lose if he loses to Tim Means.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
And he could.
He
Dude,
could.
the Dirty Bird is
Tim
nasty,
Means
bro.
is a
He's got some
scrapper,
fucking elbows,
bro.
dude.
Yeah.
That kid's a scrapper, man.
Uh-huh.
He did his fucking time in the pen, and I don't know if he fought in there, but he came out fucking nasty,
Must have.
dude. Like, Tim Means don't fuck around. Like,
Yeah, he's
I'm a fan. I wish that dude the
He's a
best.
tough
but,
customer.
and I think this fight will be exciting, but I expect Perry to come out and eventually get the KO here.
Yeah.
And I expect to enjoy every minute of it, honestly. I would be shocked if I didn't.
Yeah. It could be yeah, that's another thing is like Tim Means has a pretty good chin. So this could be one of those things where we're seeing a freaking slugfest.
Yes.
And Mike Perry's always down.
Mike Perry is down to go to war.
Down as fuck.
He won't even try a takedown.
Who's going to be in his corner?
His girlfriend, I think.
She's pregnant. I think.
Right.
Whoa.
I've heard nothing else. Like he did that thing.
Damn,
like
he's
he was,
getting cornered by his kid and his wife. That's crazy. 2 cornermen. Is he certified?
I doubt it. We got a good women's fight on here as well at 115 pounds.
It was rescheduled. It
Yes.
was supposed to be on the fight night card not too long ago. But now we're finally getting Caitlin Chikugian taking on Cynthia Calvillo. Great fight. I like it
Calvillo, a
lot.
friend of the marijuana, just like us.
I guess so, right?
Yes. Dude, I like her.
Yeah, I think she's going to win.
nasty.
I think Chikugian is also... I don't understand how she's coming back so quick.
She just fought, and she just fought before that. This is like her 3rd fight in, what, 3 months, 4 months,
No,
5 months?
5 or 6 months. Yeah.
That's still
Did
a
she
lot.
get knocked out in her last fight?
She beat Shevchenko's sister in her last
Yeah,
fight.
and then didn't she get knocked out by Andrade?
And then Andrade took her out quick. Yes, that's correct.
I gotta double check this. But if that's the case, what the fuck is she doing?
I guess she's just putting in work, trying to get paid. I'm not sure. But she's going to have her hands full with Cavillo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's decent on the feet, but she's got the nasty Eddie Bravo 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu as well.
She fought in May against Antonina Shevchenko.
And won.
She-
that was
yeah,
on the
and
heels
won.
of losing to her sister,
Losing to her
Valentina
sister,
Shevchenko, in a brutal way.
Yeah, that was in 2019. Then she lost. She got knocked out by Jessica Andrade October 17th. And now is turning around and fighting on November 21st.
How is that even possible? Because when you get KO'd, you have usually a
I thought it's a
mandatory
90
30 to 90 day no contact rule. So how could you be even
I
like,
don't
sparring
even know.
and training?
I can't take her in this fight.
No, I
do
think
it.
she's back way too soon.
No, yeah.
And Cavillo's a little underrated, honestly.
Absolutely.
Like she's gonna win this fight.
Yeah, what the fuck is she doing? That's crazy. Less than a month. She thinks she's Michael Bisping.
Maybe she needs to get paid.
I
Who
guess.
knows, man?
Must. Well, and then we've got another rematch down here. We got Shogun taking on Paul Craig.
Well, the
First fight-
205 pounder.
Yeah. First fight was a draw. And
I remember.
Yeah.
Wasn't
mean, It was just like one of those fights where it was like one guy dominated one part, one guy dominated the other part, and then the middle round it was like both of them were like kind of even, but it wasn't like nothing was overwhelming about both these guys. It was like both almost finished each other in each round, and then like it was just like even. Like that's what. And like Shogun keeps talking about like this is his last fight. This is his last fight.
he been
This
saying
is his
that?
last
Yeah.
Fight. This is his last fight.
I don't even hear that
How
anymore.
long are we gonna deal with this?
I don't know. I mean, he's done okay. I mean, he did go on a bit of a streak. Then he
Yeah.
got this draw. I mean, it's an okay fight. I'm not
He's coming off
thinking
his
he
win
of
against
them-
Little Nog.
Huh. That's my thoughts there.
Dominant.
Well, you know, one fight, I'm not too excited, honestly, about the Shogun Paul Craig. It is what it is. It's good they did it in a rematch since it was a draw.
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll see what happens. One fight I am excited about, though, in the 125-pound division again, is we got Brandon Moreno versus,
Brandon Royval.
yes. Man, Royval was really impressive in his last outing.
Holy shit, he was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Moreno is a solid fighter as well.
Well,
This should be
Moreno
some fireworks.
is like the underground #1 contender. Like he should be right in the mix.
This is basically a #1 contenders fight.
It is
sort
what
of.
it isn't,
Yeah,
because the only problem is with Cody Garbrandt falling out of what was supposed to be his main event against Figueiredo. Are they going to reschedule that?
there's been no news as of yet,
Yeah, so we'll see about that.
and we'll see how. You know,
But
he-
if I'm these two guys, if I'm both these motherfucking Brandons, I'm calling out the champ after this fight.
absolutely,
Yeah, especially Royval, dude. That fool is a fucking savage.
dude.
Like
I
he
was
is
so
a
impressed in his
savage,
last
dude.
fight. He is a pure savage. I'm picking him to win this one, and I'd like to see him fight for that title.
Yeah.
If he fights like that, man,
Yeah.
let's get it on.
Yep. And then going down the prelims a little bit more, we got Joaquin Buckley,
The man of the most incredible kick,
KO,
the most
of all time.
spectacular.
Yeah.
Not the greatest, but the most spectacular KO,
Yeah,
in
it's
my
pretty-
opinion, of
it's
all
pretty
time.
spectacular.
It's a pretty spectacular KO.
And then you got the Beverly Hills Ninja, Jordan Wright.
This is a fairly quick comeback for Buckley, too, who's still
Yeah.
working at fucking Walgreens. Straight
Yeah,
up.
that was
Dude
a
has
great
this
story.
the most amazing kick we've seen in years.
He's like, I
Goes
got a
viral.
shift tomorrow.
Dude's like, yeah, I got a shift. I'm managing fucking Walgreens tomorrow, and I'm not going to quit. Like,
Yeah.
wow, that's all right.
He wants
Get
his
paid,
own-
son.
Yeah.
Shit. Hope you can quit soon, though.
Yeah,
Damn, it's hard to have.
Said it doesn't interfere with this training time. So
Well, if you just work and train, I guess, man.
Guess
At
so.
some point it will.
yeah, fuck.
At some point it will. But stack that cash, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, how good is the Beverly Hills Ninja?
He's pretty good. He had a pretty quick knockout in his last fight.
Yeah. Do you think Buckley is going to feel, and I hope he doesn't, but do you think he's going to feel some pressure to do something spectacular in this fight?
Not really,
And that
because he
might
was in the
fuck
UFC
him up.
before that. Remember, he had fought Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
Got knocked out by Kevin
he got
Holland.
beat by Kevin Holland.
Yeah, so I mean, like, he's been in the UFC before. He knows how to handle this thing.
I think so, too.
I think there's a lot more implications if he wins again, though. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot more
Yeah,
opportunities.
this is a quick turnaround for him. What has it been, a month? 6 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 2.
A plus side for these guys cranking out these fights, and maybe that's the same with Chikugian, is they're finishing their contracts faster.
Yeah,
And especially when you're a lower level
Especially,
fighter,
yeah.
you'll want to finish that contract as
Yeah.
quickly as fucking possible if you're
sure.
winning.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So I don't know what did he come off of the Dana White Contender Series, Buckley? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, no, I think he was just.
Royval did though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, man, that's a pretty decent card.
Oh yeah, top
So,
to bottom.
I'm looking forward to that. And again, wishing the best for Perez in the fight. I think Shevchenko's going to pull that out.
Yeah.
And
And if you want to see all our picks, of course, follow us on Instagram.
yep, at S.W.A.T MMA podcast. You'll find all the links, all the information about where to find our show, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to soon to be on Amazon, radio.net, Orange Radio app, etc. All this information is all together in one spot. Paul, where can they find it?
SWATMMA.com, where you can head over there, click the gear button, buy a t-shirt, and support the podcast.
Thanks, folks.
Peace.
Later.